The food service and hospitality industries are evolving, often in ways you've never heard of, until now. Our host and technovator, Rob Grimes, is the leading voice of global food service and hospitality technology. Powered by the International Food and Beverage Technology Association, IFBTA, the Accelerate podcast is where technology and ideas are shared, served with a side of new innovation. Welcome to the Accelerate podcast.
Let me introduce a very, very special guest today, Marcus. So Marcus, welcome to Accelerate.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you including me and excited to be here.
Okay, so why is Marcus so special? Well, he's got a near and dear place in my heart because, as many of you know, my history with FS Tech, and that's not what we're here to talk about today, but when FS Tech became part of what is now Informa, Marcus was the guy. And he's still the guy in tech, representing it across the board, including the National Restaurant Show. But Marcus, can you let us know what your background is and what your job is today and what it is that you do? Why are you the guy bringing tech to our industry?
Well, that's very kind of you, but I represent a very big team over here at Informa. So I am the Vice President of Enterprise Sales for Informa Food Service Vertical, and that really encompasses three divisions. So we have our media products with Restaurant Business and Nation's Restaurant News. We have our data and insights business with Technomic, and then we obviously have our in-person experiences. And those in-person event experiences range from like 50 people to 75,000 people. And the products that I primarily work on are some of our smaller conferences and meetings like Restaurant Leadership Conference and FS Tech. But really the biggest product that I work on is the National Restaurant Association show. So this is, the largest food show in the world. This year, we're expecting a lot of people, pre-COVID levels, which we're very excited about.
You want to tell us where and when it is, just in case somebody actually doesn't know that?
Yeah. So May 18th through the 21st in Chicago, Illinois. It's at the McCormick Center. So we will be taking it over. A lot of square footage across the entire ecosystem. So it's not just a tech show. Obviously, technology is very much represented, but there's food equipment companies, beverage manufacturers, plant-based providers, organic food suppliers. So really the entire ecosystem is represented at the restaurant show. And we are excited to announce that it will be the 103rd iteration and version of this year's show.
Yeah, 103 years, that's a long time. For a show, I would also point out that in the ecosystem of Informa, that they also operate some of the other largest food and restaurant and hotel shows around the world, as well as technology shows. Because I used to actually go to them in Hong Kong and Beijing and Shanghai and Bangkok and in Singapore. And so it's actually part of a family, but the hospitality industry and the food service industry is a family. And I'm going to take a guess that the National Restaurant Show also attracts the largest international audience in the world to any hospitality and food service show.
Yes. Obviously there was some challenges coming out of COVID with visas and permits and all of that stuff. But yes, we're very excited. Our international representation is way up, and we're anticipating record numbers for 2024.
Yeah, I had the opportunity last year of speaking to about 125 people from the Brazilian delegation of franchisees, franchisors, brands, suppliers, and I'm going to do that again this year. And I know that they're probably just one of many groups that come as a group to the show, representing different ends of the industry. The American Hotel Lodging Association is going to have their food and beverage meeting there. So I would say that it's a show that attracts an international audience. And it's got something for everybody. Do you want to talk about? I know there are some specialty areas around the show.
Yeah, so this is not like necessarily a destination show where like we create certain vignettes of suppliers and companies and organizations, but really this is the show for all of food service. So really every single component within the restaurant industry and food service industry is going to be represented. So we have a massive tech pavilion, by far and away the largest conglomerate of technology companies for any industry event. But we also have an equipment area. So we do this thing called Kitchen Innovation Awards, which celebrate the newest, greatest, brightest, and innovative kitchen equipment suppliers. Obviously, we do a lot of stuff with food. So we have the culinary experience, which is going to be in Lakeside. And then we obviously have some theaters with content and themes for both technology as well as HR, labor, workforce, operations. So really, it is the one-stop shop for all types of food service
And you
operators.
actually have some world-class keynote speakers also headlining at the show.
Yeah, no, we're super excited. Every year we do something with, the National Restaurant Association, which is called our signature session. So Chef Jose Andres is going to be there representing his group in World Central Kitchen, talking about all the different things
And
that they do
they've
there.
unfortunately certainly made a lot of press recently,
Yes.
and I'm sure that will be a subject of it as well. But everything that he has done for this industry, starting as a chef who probably attended the show, looking for dishes and looking for food and everything, but now he's doing a lot more than that, and he's what a great speaker to have.
Yeah, no, we're super excited about that. And then one of our other major sessions is going to be the Technomic Top 500. So they basically do an annual study, kind of doing a contextual analysis of the largest chains in the industry, where they are today, where they're going, to be in a few years. And we have some really nice representation from CMOs and COOs involved in that opportunity.
Hey, you know what? That's actually a good lead into something else. You just used the word CMO, COO, CTO, CIO. That's a C-level type of thing. A CMO being chief marketing officer, or CIO information, chief technology, and operations. But this isn't a show that's just for the big companies.
Yeah, now that's a great thing with this show is that it really is the Super Bowl of food service. So we have representation from all
The Super
segments
Bowl,
within the
not the salad bowl, right?
Yes. We really do have representation from all segments within the restaurant and food service industry. So, obviously you're going to have your quick service restaurants and your fast casual brands, but we also get down all the way to single unit and multi-unit independents. But it doesn't just stick to the commercial side. We also have a very large representation from the non-commercial side. So colleges, hospitals, K through 12, businesses and institution. Every year, the military and the Air Force send a huge number of their food service operations teams to come and attend and participate. We also are making a lot of inroads in the retail space. Obviously convenience stores, groceries, doing a lot more in food service. And it's really just the one place where you can have CEOs of QSR chains and culinary students walking the floor together, sampling products, learning about the latest and greatest innovations that the industry has to offer. And it's really the one show in the industry that has the entire ecosystem of suppliers represented. And it's exciting because,
Well,
2024 is going to be the biggest and best.
Well, as you think about that, no show this size that takes over a whole convention center in Chicago, is, just standalone. It has its different audiences, and you have to be able to work with them. Now, I'm going to guess, and maybe you know this off the top of your head, but almost every publication globally in the industry is at the show. Covering it, but also every association, from the franchise association, the food manufacturers. I know because I get invites to some of them, not all of them. You probably get invites to everything, but so it's a collaborative effort of the whole industry, and then backed by the National Restaurant Association. So how does that play into bringing all these associations and different industry groups, SHFM, the hospitality management chart? How do you do that?
Yeah, so people kind of look at the restaurant show as the mid-year point where they can kind of congregate with everyone. There's a lot of industry and segment specific shows. You have tech specific shows, you have supply chain and HR and labor shows, and you have finance specific shows. But this is really the one event in the industry that brings everything together under one umbrella, if you will. So what we just do is try and obviously bring as many companies and suppliers and manufacturers and technology providers and equipment vendors to the event. And then, they drive operator attendance. Obviously our team is responsible for the promotion of the event and driving traffic and awareness. But we also take a lot of pride in creating content that satisfies audience across the entire board. And if you look at shows in general, they're just very efficient. I think other than no one wants to be on a plane every single week. And it's much easier and more efficient for people to go to one place at one time, see all their different partners, all their association members, have a little bit of fun, dinners, drinks, all that stuff that goes on at trade shows. So we really do a great job at hosting, because at the end of the
So,
day, this is a hospitality business, and we really pride ourselves
and
on
you
being.
guys do a great job at hosting, but so does everybody else because there are so many other meetings
Yes.
you really bring the industry together because everybody uses it as a focal point. Obviously, we're going to be talking about technology, but before we do, um, can you also talk about some of the specialty programming going on? Because I think this year you're doing something different as it relates to educational tracks and topics and sessions that people can sign up for in specific areas.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we have obviously our two main theaters. We have the Innovation Theater, which is going to be in the North Hall and Tech Pavilion. So that's really going to be content centered around technology, how where to implement best practices, really thought provoking content from both our supplier partners as well as operators within the industry. We have the Discovery Zone and Discovery Theater, which is going to be in South Hall. So that's going to be a little bit more like operations, HR, labor, supply chain focused. But then this year, for the first time, we are going to be doing something called like Expo Plus, which is going to be educational content tracks that is going to occur on Saturday and Sunday and Monday. That's primarily for operators only. And that's content that's going to be produced by our team. And it's going to range a wide variety of topics around, best practices around marketing, how to kind of create new menu items. There'll be beverage content. There will be a lot of different things that will drive operators into a session where they can kind of meet and congregate, with their peers, listen, learn, and engage with other folks to hear best practices around how to kind of drive more profitability into the restaurant. We also have the beverage stage. So that's going to be in Lakeside, which is going to be all focused around alcohol, wine, spirits, non-alcoholic drinks, to really drive more profitability around your menu items as it relates to beverage. And then finally, last but not least, we have the culinary experience. So that is going to be a section and theater in Lakeside, and that's going to be dedicated around the menu. So everything from food, pairings, supply chain, how to create new menu items, how to present those menu items. And it's great because every single day there is going to be hundreds of sessions run concurrently, obviously in our theaters, but also in the booths, and content is going to be created all throughout the 4 days.
So before we cut over and just take a break for a minute and start really talking about technology and innovation, I did notice that, and you brought this up. You said about plant-based, and you've got organic and natural foods. You really and you've had you just mentioned beverage, and you've had an Italian food area for a while.
Yep.
But I see this year you're doing a Spanish pavilion. I don't think I remember that in the past. Is that something new? I mean, that you're really focusing on different industry segments like this?
Yeah, so we do a couple things. So we obviously work with, countries and their like import export teams on driving more product from that country into the US. And we'll work with their delegate team. We'll work with sometimes the government in many instances to kind of band together a lot of different types of suppliers so that they can kind of, be in a specific section and area. So we do have the Global Food Expo. We do have Iberica, which is going to be primarily Spanish, products, if you will. We do have the Italian pavilion, and then we do something called Taste of the States, which are going to be for smaller U.S. purveyors of food. And it's really all just about kind of creating awareness, giving community for these, smaller suppliers who are looking to get deeper into food service.
And then you give out awards, as
Yeah.
well
So we do
in there.
FABI, which is the Food and Beverage Innovation Awards. So every single food and beverage, exhibitor has the opportunity to apply to this. They submit an abstract and a proposal, and then that's obviously going to be judged by a panel of, experts that range from like, commercial restaurant operators, non-commercial. We had some grocery retail, and obviously those awards are going to be, celebrated at the 2024 show. And then we do something called the KI Awards, which are the Kitchen Innovation Awards. Same kind of deal with the equipment side of things, where they obviously submit a prospectus, and then that is going to be judged by a panel of awards. And we do have a KI pavilion in the back of South Hall, where you can obviously go and see all those different award winners.
Great. Well, listen, we're going to take a break for a moment and then we're going to come back and we're going to specifically focus on innovation and technology. And then at the very end, we're going to have a very special announcement on this Accelerate program. But I would remind you, as I do every week, that if you're like me and you're constantly exploring, seeking, sitting on a plane all the time, as Marcus has pointed out, but seeking and feeding a passion for new technology and innovation, besides going to the National Restaurant Show, it doesn't matter if it's for work or within the industries or your own personal use or just something that makes you say wow. And I always see things that make me say wow. In this case, taste things that make me say wow and experience, which is part of the show itself. Then, take a picture, send a video, send a link, or pass it on to me directly at coolideas@robertgrimes.com. And we can explore, learn, share, and start that conversation together. And sometimes they find their way onto an Accelerate podcast. And speaking of Accelerate, to subscribe, or if you have any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, please send a note to our producer at Accelerate at savor.fm, SAVOR.fm. Well, all right. So now taking a breath. Now we're going to talk about technology and innovation. Now, you said at the beginning, how many vendors? Did you say 400?
Yeah, there's about 2,300 exhibitors in total, and
Mm-hmm.
I would say about 400 companies who self identify as a technology provider.
Okay, so you've also mentioned the innovation awards and the innovation area, which is a different area than what's going on in tech. And then, of course, you have the culinary types of awards, which the FABI, which you've already mentioned. So I would venture to say, and I would put out there, because I do a count every year. And while you may have 400 companies that may be listed as technology, if I go on to the app and I pull them up, I've gone through this before and I've found close to 800 companies or more that actually have a technology base. They may not be listed as technology, but almost everybody's got it. And then you go to the equipment guys, some of the people that are getting awards, and you go to the Middleby booth or you go to the Pepsi booth, and you're seeing technology and vending in those booths, and they may not be listing it as such. So I'm going to tell you that technology is actually everywhere at the restaurant show, not just in the pavilion. Uh, but let's go ahead and talk about the pavilion. So, why don't you give us the overview of the pavilion itself, what it's about, what the features are?
Yeah, so the Technology Pavilion sits in the North Hall, and this is kind of a section and area that's dedicated for tech companies. And to your point, Rob, it's interesting. Everybody really does have a tech play these days. All the equipment companies are doing IoT and connected kitchen. The food and beverage manufacturers are kind of positioning themselves as labor efficiency companies and organizations. But in the North Hall, this tech pavilion is really dedicated for the entire ecosystem. So you'll have point of sale companies, you'll have labor and scheduling companies, you'll have inventory management, front of house apps, and the pavilion has just risen in prominence over the past, 10 or 11 years that I've been participating with the show. And it's really exciting to see because, you'll have the big, enterprise solutions house next to early stage startups. And it really is the one show where, you can get a lot of different companies into a very large space where they can really see the whole industry all at once.
Yeah, it is. I was at the Jersey Shore last week, and I was meeting with a independent restaurateur, a young couple that built a restaurant. And well, they didn't build it; it was the family restaurant. They've taken over. Now they're building a second, and they may do a third. And we had this conversation because they were thinking about purchasing. They do this to me all the time. What do you think of this POS or what do you think of that? Well, I said, let me come look at your systems, and I'm not going to give you a direct answer, but I'm going to help you to define your requirement. So I went, and it was so interesting the amount of things they did paper and pencil, and they
Yep.
weren't using it. And the vendors they're using are actually all at the show, but the vendors they're asking about are also at the show. And
Yep.
I said to them, you know what? I think you ought to make a trip to Chicago in a couple weeks, and you ought to go to the show. And I told them, by the way, that if they decide to go, I'll get them badges. So I may be calling you. But anyway, uh, so I said, if you want to see it, you need to get an education. You need to understand what's there. And you can do this in a single thing, from the sessions to visiting and understanding what's loyalty, what's point of sale, what's digital signage, what's a kiosk, what's robotics. I mean, you have a huge robotics area there as well. So it really does cover it all, and it's for big and small. But
Yep.
can I put you on the spot for a second?
Please, Rob, I wouldn't
There you
expect
go. He's
anything
thinking to
less.
himself, "Oh, what's he going to ask me?" You know, you happen to be in like a really key position because even though I could go on the app and see what's out there, you've been talking with these technology companies all year long about the show, and the new ones they come to you. So, what kind of innovation are we going to see this year before we get there? I'll cover it when we get there, but I'm curious what you think going in. Is there some sort of innovation that's getting you excited that you just can't wait to see?
Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of the next iteration of voice AI. That's really one that's been gaining steam over the past couple show cycles. And first it was the drive through, and then it was phone orders, and then, voice AI at the kiosks. And, I think back to your kind of single unit, multi unit independent friend in the Jersey Shore. And there's a lot of inefficiencies in their business, using pen and paper and using kind of vendors cobbled together to do things that can be automated. And I think if you look at the restaurant industry in general, it's a pretty inefficient business, but there are tools out there, voice AI and kiosks and robotics to clean tables and wash dishes and kind of do some of the mundane tasks that will allow these owner operators to be freed up to run the business, manage people, manage the P&L, motivate the team, come up with new marketing plans, and drive more sales, efficiency, and most importantly, profitability into the business. And what's really unique about the restaurant show is that is not only the challenge for that single unit independent operator in, you know, the Jersey Shore. This is something that the largest QSR chains in the world are fighting with right now. And there's just so many challenging headwinds with inflation, with wages and labor. Everyone is looking for ways to improve their business, drive more efficiency. And the great thing with the show, Rob, to your point, is that you can see it all. You can see the
Yeah, you know
equipment.
what though? God, I like can't keep up with you in making a list here of everything that you just brought up. But you just brought up things like drive-through. You brought up voice AI. We brought up robotics here. We know about the automated kitchen. You did Internet of Things. We know about the loyalty that's out there. We know about inventory and ordering, the back office systems. There's so many things that really bring it together. But now more than ever, it all and you brought up labor, okay, and then you brought up online ordering and delivery. I don't know you brought up delivery, but I know that it was out there, okay. So once you look at all of that, that's pretty darn confusing.
Yep.
And what I find is when the independent and the small to medium and the emerging company, not the big guys but the emerging ones, that have 20, 30 units, and they're going to grow to be the big ones, what do? They talk to their friends, they go to a conference, but there isn't really a single place that they can go to see it all at once. And they can here with the size of something that used to be at the back of the room and now extends all the way to the front, even beyond, by the way, the
Yep.
demarcation of what the tech zone is, because I've noticed that. Um, but if I want to learn, let's say I don't understand it. I looked at the program and it looks to me like you have very well selected sessions in the Innovation Theater
Yep.
in here to pretty much cover every one of the areas.
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation for anyone who's looking to go to the show is to really map out and plan your experience. It is such a massive show. I mean, there's almost 700,000 square feet of exhibitors, 2,300 companies. There are concurrent sessions running daily. So take the time to really plan out your show experience. Obviously, shows can be very serendipitous. You can bounce into someone that you haven't seen in years, which is great. But to really maximize your National Restaurant Association show, on-site experience, take the time to really figure out what are the 2 or 3 things a day that I really want to figure out. And that could be a wide variety of things. How do I menu, plant-based? How do I create a new, non-alcoholic beverage cocktail menu? How do I,
How do I design and digitize my
yeah.
menu?
How do I design and digitize my menu? How do I roll out kiosks? Because it's all here. It's all represented. So really take the time to look at the content tracks, look at the education opportunities, but really look at the different kind of companies and technology providers that are going to be represented at the show. And if you are looking for point of sale, go see them all because they're all there. Every
They
single
are there, and
company.
you really
Yep.
but I my recommendation to them, and I talk about this all the time, on the IFBTA's podcast, on this podcast, and I talk about it when I speak. Write down your requirements. It doesn't have to be 100 things, but the top 20 things that are, and write down the systems that you currently have. So when you go and you talk to somebody, you can ask them, "Do you integrate with this? Do you work with that? How do you handle this? Hey, I'm thinking about adding this." Because if you walk in, what was it? Marcy and Cy Sims, the retailers used to say, an educated consumer is their best customer. You can walk the show, but you do need to prepare. And I think that's the point you're making. So, what tools are available to somebody in order to help them to plan their show?
Yeah, so I would encourage everybody to download the app. That can obviously be done in the Apple or Android store. Just search up National Restaurant Association Show. 2024 version is live. And that'll really give you the tools to kind of build out your show experience. So you can see all the sessions, all the different exhibitors by category. You can tag things that are important or of interest to you. I just think if you spend a little bit of time before you get to Chicago, thinking about what are your goals, what are you trying to accomplish, who are you trying to meet, you can really maximize that experience and walk away with it with some tangible business takeaways and next steps.
You really can't do it. Can you do it in a day? I mean,
Um, no,
and
you
you wouldn't
can't do
want
it
to,
in a
right?
day.
Because you
You
have
wouldn't
some
want to.
activities in the evening too, right?
Exactly. No, I always suggest, put the time in, put the effort in, be present, put your phone down, put your email away, and
Wait, are
really
you
try and
talking to
get,
me here?
well,
You
yeah,
must
I
be
am
talking to
talking to
me.
you,
Yeah,
but,
okay, I get it.
really try and be present while you're on site, spend the time because, all of these exhibitors, all of these companies, not just technology providers, have invested a lot of time and energy to be here, obviously resources and manpower and people power to kind of be in Chicago. And they are so open and willing to give you what you need for your business to be successful. So if you take the time to really look at like what you're trying to do and implement and grow, there are solutions out there, obviously within the technology category, but across the entire ecosystem of suppliers that are at the event.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, and how does a person register? They go to the website.
Yep.
How does a person do this?
Yep, super easy. Go to nationalrestaurantshow.com. Register now. There's different, obviously, options based upon your like category, whether you're an operator, whether you're a non-exhibiting supplier, whether you're a sponsor, an exhibitor. So yeah, we have lots of options. We have lots of rooms still available. Obviously make your hotel reservations because that's very important. There's buses every day, every way to get you to the McCormick Center and get you home, and then plan some fun stuff at night. I mean, Chicago is an amazing
It's a
city.
great restaurant town.
Yeah, great restaurant city, very vibrant, dining, entertaining city. And fingers crossed, we'll have good weather.
And you never know. Well, it usually is good weather, and it's a big hall, so you don't have to go outside when you're going
Yep.
from one to the other. But there's certainly plenty of opportunity, to do these things. So I think that we've heard that the show 103rd year. Okay,
Yes.
I haven't been going that long. I would just want to put that out there, but I've been to a lot of them, and this is backed by the National Restaurant Association, who has a big pavilion right front and center that really talk about all of the great things that they offer, all the benefits for the industry, and bringing all the different segments and parts of the industry together. So people should make sure to go ahead and take a look at that as well, because that's how you come up to speed on all the labor issues and all of the opportunities and educational things that they have to offer as well.
Yeah, National Restaurant Association is an amazing entity and organization that is tirelessly campaigning and advocating for the entire food service and restaurant industry, whether it's through the Education Foundation, the things that they're doing with ProStar, the things that they're doing with
They just had the
ServeSafe.
Pro Start tournament in Baltimore this past week.
Yeah, no, they are an amazing association that does so much for the restaurant industry on a daily and weekly basis. So yes, please go visit their booth, front and center between North and South Hall. Impossible to miss, and they'll give you some updates from a regulatory standpoint, and some of the things that they're working on, both short and long term.
Right. And I would tell you that the activities and the fun things, I think Marcus has given very good advice also to take advantage of the things in the evening as well. Uh, besides the IFBTA having their celebration of technology, you also have Menu Masters, which is recognizing different chefs and different products out there. The IFMA, the Food Manufacturers Awards. You have the military coming. I think the Air Force has
Yep.
a program while they're there. You've got, as I said, the the American Hotel Lodging Association. Motels a long time ago. You just got SHFM has their breakfast. I mean, everybody comes together. There is something for everyone. This is actually your show that you should attend. And Marcus, I think you've given us a pretty good advice to get there, but also a good overview of why somebody who hasn't decided to attend should, and those who are attending, what else they should be looking at.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great show. We are very, very excited. I think from a representation standpoint, the entire food service ecosystem will be there, all the different types of suppliers that will really drive more profitability and efficiency in your business. And the Tech Pavilion is going to be massive this year with new companies, startups, established enterprise brands. And if you're looking for tech, there's no better place than the restaurant show.
So that being said, Marcus, thank you for that. I do need to put in a plug for the Food and Beverage Technology Association. We will have a booth there right next to the Innovation Theater at the back of the technology area. It's booth 5882. And we will be also broadcasting our podcast live from there. As well, and really helping people out. And you might look at it as a welcome desk and a help desk there, because if you're interested in technology and you're not sure where to look, you can come and visit the IFBTA, and we actually will have a map, and we will direct you to people who sell the types of technologies you may be looking for and give you impartial information to be able to ask those informed questions. And that's what the IFBTA is for. And we thank Informa and the National Restaurant Association, National Restaurant Show, for making that opportunity available for the IFBTA to partner and also work with you, Marcus, again. So we greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then just one announcement before we sign off. This actually will be the last episode of the Accelerate podcast by the IFBTA, because we will be changing our name and upgrading, as everybody should do every few years in tech. And the new podcast will be the IFBTA's Tech Bites, TECHBYTES. And we will be kicking that off at the show with live coverage from the show, and we'll announce it there. We will also be kicking off on my side the Technology Report with Paul Barron, and we will be broadcasting that live from the show as well. So that's our big announcement, and you will find the IFBTA there helping you through the Tech Pavilion and the 400 plus tech-enabled companies that are there, from food tech to equipment tech, all the way across the board. We're your resource on that. So, Marcus, thank you for joining us today. And
thank you so much for having me, Rob.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the show in a couple of weeks. This podcast is brought to you by the International Food and Beverage Technology Association. The IFBTA is the industry's voice of technology within the food and beverage industries, providing thought leadership as a single, impartial, and go-to resource alongside of the National Restaurant Show, the Restaurant Show. The IFBTA offers in-person and online communities to connect with your peers, the exchange, an all-encompassing global technology directory, and an industry-wide professional education and certification program. The bottom line is the IFBTA is your place to gather, learn, and share. So thank you for joining Marcus and me on this episode of Accelerate, powered by the IFBTA. I'm Rob Grimes, your host, and I look forward to our next accelerated but called Tech Bites conversation together.